In May 2020, Hollywood icon Clint Eastwood marked a significant milestone when he celebrated his 90th birthday. The actor and director built a legendary career for himself during that time, while his love life has been arguably just as eventful. On that note, a supposed inside source claimed to shed some light on Eastwood's current romance with Christina Sandera. Eastwood was first introduced to Sandera back in 2014, and despite the age gap between them, they soon formed a bond. And to give you an idea of the disparity, the former had already registered 19 film and television appearances by the time she was born in 1964. As we suggested earlier, Eastwood's romantic life was full of ups and downs prior to meeting Sandera. The acting legend has been married twice, and he has engaged in some other high-profile relationships too. Meanwhile, Eastwood's second marriage officially came to an end in the same year that he connected with his current girlfriend. Details have been thin on the ground regarding Eastwood and Sandera's relationship, but his fans were offered a tantalizing glimpse in June 2020. And as we'll discover later, an alleged inside source spoke to Closer Weekly magazine in the wake of the actor's 90th birthday. But away from Eastwood's love life, the star appeared to be in a reflective mood in the days before he became a nonagenarian. And that was readily apparent when he sat down for an interview with the Daily Mirror. During that conversation, the star opened up about the aging process from his perspective. "Aging can be fun if you lay back and enjoy it," Eastwood told the newspaper in May 2020. "When you're young, you're very reckless. Then you get conservative. Then you get reckless again. As you get older, you're not afraid of doubt. Doubt isn't running the show. You take out all the self-agonizing." Eastwood then made an interesting suggestion about his career in Hollywood. The star added, "I do want to continue to progress in life, still at my age. I don't want to stand still or go backwards. You never know when you're going to give up, but I'm enjoying it." And Eastwood's latest credits showcase the continued passion he has for the movie industry. The versatile filmmaker directed and starred in 2018's The Mule, which was a big hit with audiences around the world. Then, Eastwood helmed the movie Richard Jewell, which reached theaters in December the following year. Incredibly, Eastwood has enjoyed a career in Hollywood which has spanned over 6 decades. He made his acting debut back in 1955 with an uncredited role in Revenge of the Creature. The future star would then go on to appear in 3 more films that year. In 1956, Eastwood featured in 7 projects on the big and small screen. The actor's television bow came in the crime series Highway Patrol. From there, his schedule showed no signs of letting up in the latter half of the decade, as he popped up in different movies and TV shows. But as the 1950s came to a close, Eastwood scored one of the leading roles in a new TV series titled Rawhide. The show ran for 6 years, lasting a total of 8 seasons. The star appeared in all 217 episodes, and this unsurprisingly had an effect on his other output. Eastwood only featured in 4 other projects during the show's lengthy run on the small screen. Eastwood then appeared in a number of other high-profile movies over the next few years and went on to establish himself as a Hollywood mainstay. Those included the likes of Where Eagles Dare and Kelly's Heroes. Meanwhile, 1971's Play Misty for Me marked his debut behind the camera. Eastwood also scored a number of other iconic roles during this stage in his career. In the 1970s alone, he kick-started the Dirty Harry franchise and starred in the Western classic The Outlaw Josie Wales. Alongside that, the performer also showcased his comedic chops in 1978's Every Which Way But Loose. Eastwood then talked to the Daily Mirror about how he fared during the subsequent decades. He said, "The 1980s were a transition period for me, but the 1990s were pretty good, because I brought out Unforgiven, which I had for many years, a story I had sat on. Then I started playing older people with certain regrets and problems to overcome." Over the course of Eastwood's long career, he's picked up more than 150 awards and earned over 170 nominations. As a director, his highest-grossing movie is currently 2014's American Sniper, which brought in roughly $547 million at the box office. That surpassed his previous best of $270 million for Gran Torino, which came out 6 years earlier. Away from Hollywood, though, Eastwood's love life had its fair share of drama. Like we mentioned earlier, he's been a 2-time husband, enjoying relationships with Maggie Johnson and Dina Ruiz. In addition to that, Eastwood has also been involved in some other romances down the years. Eastwood has enjoyed a number of relationships in the past, including with the actress Sandra Locke and a stunt worker named Roxanne Tunis. He's also welcomed 8 kids into the world over that period from 6 different romances. A source, allegedly with ties to Eastwood, spoke about his relationship with the kids to Closer Weekly in June 2020. They said, "He keeps in touch with all 8 of his children and their families. He's taken great comfort that at this time of his life, all his kids are close." But let's return to Eastwood's relationship with Christina Sandera. As we touched upon earlier, the pair formed a connection in 2014, and they met in curious circumstances. She had a job at the Mission Ranch Hotel at the time, an establishment owned by the Hollywood legend. Eastwood was introduced to Sandera when she held a hostess position at the hotel. After that, they eventually made their romance public at the 2015 Academy Awards ceremony when they arrived on the red carpet together. Then, sometime later, she was invited to live in the icon's house in Carmel, California. Prior to meeting Eastwood, though, Sandera had gone through some difficult spells in her own personal life. For instance, she was previously with a man named Paul Wainscott back in the early 2000s, and over the course of their relationship, he leveled a serious accusation her way on 2 different occasions. According to the She Knows website, Wainscott claimed that Sandera had physically abused him and accused her of being a violent alcoholic. He first contacted the authorities in 2003 and did so again the following year when the pair were living together as husband and wife. Sandera soon found herself in front of a judge and facing charges of domestic violence, but she managed to avoid any punishment for that accusation and instead pleaded guilty to a disturbance of the peace charge. Sandera later hit back at Wainscott after the two eventually got a divorce. According to the documents from their case, she insisted that he'd blown her alleged actions out of proportion. Yet Eastwood's future partner did reveal that she'd taken part in 15 anger management sessions to curb her behavior. Meanwhile, the public was given an intriguing glimpse of Sandera's relationship with Eastwood via the apparent insider who we referenced earlier. The anonymous individual told Closer Weekly magazine he's truly happy with her. She's fun, easygoing, and his kids like her too. She's on an even keel like he is. The alleged insider then shed some light on another aspect of Eastwood's life. They added, he eats healthy and has a private chef who cooks high-protein, low-fat cuisine for him. He exercises every day with weight training, and he still does push-ups. But it turns out that the specialized diet isn't anything new for Eastwood. During an interview with GQ magazine in November 2009, he noted that he was following a specific regimen to stay healthy. Alongside that, the Hollywood veteran also spoke about why he was so keen to look after his body. Eastwood told the publication, I take care of myself. The only thing special about my diet is I just try to watch the intake of saturated fats. I was blessed with a reasonable system that just never puts on a lot of weight, so I always took advantage of that. I remember I had a friend who had been in the war in Korea and had been shot up a lot. Eastwood continued. He came back and he became very religious. He'd always preach, God gives you one body, you should take care of it. And I've never philosophized or expounded on philosophies that I've had, but I basically feel that way. Eastwood also tries to keep his mind sharp too, and he revealed his decades-long interest in meditation during the same conversation with GQ. In the actor's opinion, routines of that type were the perfect preparation ahead of a long day on a film set. Eastwood explained, I meditate twice a day. It works great because it just gives you a chance to gather your thoughts. I'm religious about it when I'm working. I visualize whole sequences in the morning before I go. I believe in whatever self-help you can give yourself, whether you believe in Buddha or whatever. Meditation with me was just a self-reliant thing, Eastwood told the magazine. I've been doing it for almost 40 years, but I don't go out and sell it. A lot of other people find meaning some other way, screaming it in the street or whatever it is that gets it for you. But while Eastwood still keeps himself fit and mentally active, he's not afraid to talk about the subject of death either. That became apparent in his previous conversation with the Daily Mirror as he looked back on his parents' lives. His dad Clinton's passing was particularly difficult, and it ultimately inspired him to abandon thoughts of giving up work. All my dad ever dreamed about was retiring, Eastwood informed the newspaper in May 2020, and so he did, at around 60. He didn't last very long. As for his mom, Ruth, she was approaching her century year when she passed in 2006. Much like with Eastwood's dad, the experience of losing his mother ingrained something in the star's mind. As he explained, my mom was 97 and almost voluntarily bailing out. I learned from my mother that when the time comes that you don't enjoy it, that's a good time to give it up. We all die eventually. But as the inside source noted earlier, Eastwood is clearly savoring his life right now. And there have even been some suggestions in the past that he and Sandera might be eyeing a wedding of their own. The speculation really heated up on social media in 2018, as fans wondered if the father of 8 would walk down the aisle for a third time. As of yet, though, Eastwood and Sandera have made no mention of taking the next step in their relationship, and judging by the Hollywood legend's comments to the Daily Mirror, it might stay that way. He said, "They say marriages are made in heaven, but so is thunder and lightning." Meanwhile, Eastwood currently has no projects in development following the release of Richard Jewell, but given the way in which he talks about work, that could change sooner rather than later. Indeed, his closing words to the UK newspaper certainly suggest that he's not done yet. I probably would have retired years ago if I hadn't found interesting things to do, Eastwood admitted ahead of his landmark birthday. But I've enjoyed the journey to this stage, so I intend to enjoy the rest of the journey. A long one, I hope. I'm a lucky.